So we're talking to Mike Alfreds. This is Peter Thompson, and we have looked at the first few years of your time back in England, Mike, with your opera productions and some depression, and the way in which finally you ended up getting a job as a teacher at Lamda. So you were saying something sort of off camera, as it were, about the amount of time that people need in order to kind of get where they're going, and the problems that actors have, 3 or 4 weeks rehearsal. Just elaborate on that before you start talking about all of the Lambda experience you had. Just tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, actors are human beings, and human beings are not machines. Now, they're trained and to do their job, but you are also asking actors to deal with their emotional life, their imagination, and you cannot ask for these to come up to order, because if you do, all you get is false simulations of emotional displays. So all you see is tension and cliches, because the actor isn't really finding anything truthful in themselves. And so you cannot ask for immediate results from actors. Do it this way. No, you're not doing this way. That is meaningless. Yes, you can ask an actor to go move to stage left or to stage right, but as I said to you, so even some actors can't even work that out. But you have to give the actors time to absorb what you've asked them to do, and you have to be patient, and it'll come out in 2 days, 5 days, a week, 10 days. You have to trust that eventually it will come through, and all the work I've evolved is to help them on that journey. So you're not just waiting vaguely, you're putting yourself into various stages and states and going through certain processes to help you to find what one's asking for. Yeah. So that was a great learning curve for me. Mm. Because the tradition was directors were very autocratic and said, do that. Oh, darling, that's not right. Is that the best you can give for me? Scornful and rude and bullying directors. Very much the style. Yeah. Which, thank God, doesn't exist now, not as obviously, but that was it, And so when I started working at Lamda, all the things that I didn't understand when I left Carnegie Mellon, particularly things about method and Stanislavski, what an action was, what an objective was, what motivation was, and so forth and so on, about which all we students used to argue and debate later into the night without coming to any clear answer, suddenly were as clear as daylight for me when I started taking this first class at Lamda. I found I understood totally, and that was very reassuring. And so what it told me was that those 3 years when I'd been in pretty miserable, doing all these rather tacky productions, 2 or 3 of which I haven't even mentioned to you, which are worth anecdotally being told because they're actually quite funny now I remember them. So remember that. It was a great sort of sigh of relief, breath. I could take a breath and think, oh God, I do know something. And I did this first class, which was probably 6 weeks or something, 2 days a week or 3 days a week. And they liked what I did, and I kept getting offered more and more work until I was pretty much working there full time, doing productions and doing all the first year acting classes, the main acting class, and structuring that class, and even doing the second year acting with them as well. I should remember this. I think it was a 3-year course then, or was it still only 2 years? I think probably it was just 2 years. Anyway, so I was very, not officially, but I was very much a part of that team, of teachers at Lamda. It was a very relaxed, nice atmosphere, quite warm, and it didn't have a very strong belief in any particular system. I suppose on the whole it was fairly conventional. And uh, and they had a lot of directors coming in to do productions, usually very inexperienced young directors who exploited the students in order to try to get to do their production rather than coming in to teach them, which I think still happens even today, you know. And but the rest of the faculty were rather nice. We were very collegiate. We used to say, "Can I come in and watch your class? Do come in and watch mine." And so I used to watch the movement classes, the voice classes, other people directing when I had time, and they'd pop into me. So we had a shared language, which was very nice. And so I could say, oh, to an actor, look, when you do this, do you remember what Trish Arnold told you in that movement class? I could help to connect things up, because one of the problems with teaching acting is that all the different subjects are split up. You know, this is the voice class, this is the movement class, this is the ballet class, this is the improvisation class, this is the text class, this is the acting class, this is, you know, and the actors see everything as separated.
Mm.
They're not in a position to say, actually, we are holistic and all these things impinge on each other,
Yeah.
which is a great problem. So even to this day, I mean, even recently, a couple of years ago, working for good drama students here, I'm working with students in their third year on their final production or one of their third year productions. And I go and watch their movement classes, and they're moving wonderfully. They are limber and lithe and daring, and they get a script in their hand and they become like rigid robots. Well, robots aren't rigid. They just, their bodies die because something has been missed in the middle, the way of connecting the intellectual aspect of playing a role, the thought, and it going into your body immediately, as it does with us in life, you know. And that is quite a recent realization for me. These actors' bodies are in fantastic condition, but they're not allowing the facility and ease and abilities in their bodies to be moved by what they're trying to play. So they're trying to be emotional and truthful, but the bodies aren't doing it when the bodies could. So there's a sort of, I don't know, a sort of short circuit somewhere.
It's so interesting that you went into these other classes, because I think people can be very territorial, can't they, about their work?
I think many schools are.
And but also even sometimes in sort of professional productions. And I've noticed that you've throughout your career you've welcomed having movement people there. You've always welcomed having voice people, but presumably you're always having a dialogue with them while you're working, rather than them going, okay, here's the movement class, here's the voice class, and now I'm, you know.
No, because and I also quite like people coming in to watch if they're sympathetic, because I hate the preciousness of rehearsal. We're working, come and watch us work. Don't expect results. It could be very boring. We're not here to entertain you, we're exploring. Now, you might hit a good day or you might have a dull day, but do come. With teachers, they're indispensable. I have learned probably more from wonderful movement and good voice teachers than from other people. You know, from even the people who taught me at Carnegie Mellon, whom I should say, this is something I did forget to tell you, they were all in a way utterly eccentric, but they taught something. It was very interesting. Anyway, so, yeah, I mean, theatre is a collaborative business.
Yeah.
You know, it just is. We need each other. I get really angry with actors who are late. I know acting, getting around London is difficult and you can't guarantee, but I was brought up in a tradition that you leave with enough time, so if there's a delay or a hold up on the tube of the train, you will get there pretty close. Now, we live in a very different era where people do not think like that at all. But they they don't realize that if they come to rehearsal late, they're probably holding up 10, 12 other people, me, the stage management, and the other actors, you know. And so that sense of I'm part of a community, I'm necessary, I must be there, is very strong for me,
Yeah.
you know, because it is a collaboration. I need the actors. I'm useless without the actors. What's a director without actors? You know, you have to be very modest at some level and say, you know, I'm nothing without them.
Mm. Mm.
They don't need me because if push came to shove, these actors could get together and do a production.
Yeah. I remember once, I mean, we are getting slightly diverted here, but I do remember once you saying, I think there were three things that was needed for a performance to happen: actors, audience, and
And
a
the story.
story. You don't need the director. You don't even need a script, but you do have to have, well, it's nice to have an audience. And
You know, you need an audience because that's what you're doing it for. Yes, it's about one group of people pretending to be another group of people for a third group of people. And they're usually telling a story. And I do think what I call theatre and drama is there must be a story. So I don't particularly enjoy abstract performances. Performance art confuses me because I think it's not really about theatre in my sense. That's more like an installation or an art device. You know, I want to see human beings. They can be very stylized, heightened, they can talk in rhyme verse, they can be farcical, but they're human beings at core. And that's what interests me. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anyway, it's Lamda. Oh, sorry.
no, no, I was just
And
going to say, let's get on to Lambda again. Is there anything else kind of about Lambda that you want to talk about?
yes, I mean, that was very, very nice. And what I did, I took a lot of what I'd learnt techniques from rehearsals in Carnegie Mellon, plus things I'd been thinking about. And much of the process and where I work now comes from my time at Lambda, because there I was working out how to have a productive rehearsal, inventing exercises and improvisations and games or whatever I felt was needed to get the actors closer and closer to the text. You know, so I did have a structure and it was very detailed and of course very long hours. And it was very nice to work with the same actors over 2 years or more because you got to know them and develop them. And then you also realized that somebody who'd been, you thought, well, maybe they shouldn't be actors. Suddenly they bloomed in the middle of their second year. You know, so that was a very sort of, what's the word, sort of made you a little bit modest about your evaluations.
Mm.
People, you know. And so it was a very rich period for me. It was wonderful because I did, you know, I did 28 productions. I mean, one worked in the evenings, and then my energy was I could work from 8 o'clock in the morning till midnight if I was allowed to, you know. And I was just, and what's always been very gratifying and reassuring for me that wherever I am, whatever situation I'm doing in production is, it immediately is terribly important. It's as important as if I was doing a production at the National. I don't know, it's lucky. You know, I don't think, oh, this is just a drama school production or this is just a 2-week grad. It matters, you know, and I am as precise and as thorough as I possibly can be doing it. So I did a big repertoire of stuff. I got a chance to do more Chekhov and I got starting to understand that. I did a whole range of stuff. I did some improvised pieces. And what was particularly wonderful for me then, and this is a branch of my career which didn't go anywhere else, there was a man called Anthony Bowles who was their musical director. I think I've told you about him. And we wrote, and they allowed us to do it. We wrote musicals because in the last year the actors always did one musical as one of their part of their final showings, and we created 2 shows, one in 1967, one in 1970, and it was a wonderful collaboration. And I know I did have a very good instinct as a lyric writer. aside, one of these days you'll have to see some of my lyrics. They're still sitting there, and it was, you know, and that was a wonderful bonus, unexpected, and also I learned a little bit about music. You know, again, you know, I'd already done all this other stuff, but I learned more about analysing music and how it worked and keys. You know, the difference of using different keys and the modulation of stuff. You know, and you know, really great stuff. So that was very nice. I mean, there is a whole other story about one of those other productions, which deserves a slot by itself, because that was a big learning lesson for me. Anyway, so the Lambda was very good, but after 5 years, I thought, look, I'm in a very comfortable womb here, but if I don't leave it, I never will. You know, I'll never be born, as it were. I love what I'm doing. I love the students. I'm not sad when they leave at the end of their term. I'm happy to see them go. I don't cling to them unhealthily. Happy to see the new lot. And I must go. While I was there, as I say, I devised a first year acting thing, and I structured it very well. And each summer in the break, I would rethink it and throw out things that didn't work and add things that were new. In year 4 of my 5, I had a lovely group of actors who I got on with very well, and they just loved the work and they flew with it. So that following summer, I thought, well, I know what I do now. I've got it made. I needn't relook at my structure. I'll just leave it the way it is. I've got it. I've made it. Isn't that great? Came back for the 5th year, obviously a different group of people, started off with my sequence of work, and it was received like cold sick. Mm. And I thought, oh, what's going on? This is terrible. Why don't they love what I'm doing? And again, this was a tremendously good exercise. Never presume you've got it right. Every time you start, you have to start from fresh and you have to re-examine. And I think what I was giving out to them was that I knew it all, that it worked. Whereas the previous 4 years, I was always doing new things. So I was a little tentative and a little vulnerable. And once or twice, I've made the same mistake with productions and actors, and I think I won't ever do it again. Never assume that it's going to be the way it was last time. You know, so in many ways, Lamda was fantastic for me, but I did think I have to leave. And so I went and saw the guy, Norman Ayrton, who was running, and said, look, I love it here, but I think I should leave because it's 5 years and it's going to be more of the same for me. So he very sweetly said, no, I think you should. You've got talent. Good luck. And so I left without any job, any possibility of work at all. Okay. During my Lambda, and this I must say, during my Lambda period, Philip Headley, who subsequently ran East 15 after Joan Littlewood left, was teaching there as well. And he'd also trained with her at East 15. And we got on very well, and I used to watch his classes, and I learned a lot from him, playing with actions and things, and so that was really healthy. And then while I was still there, he got a job running Lincoln Rep, and I went up and did a couple of shows for him. And I did the government inspector for him in 2 weeks, but most of his students were from East 15, where they were brilliant in improvisation, brilliant physically, and I didn't have to give them a move. They all went where it was right, and I just watched them creating interesting and witty stage, pictures without any, planning whatsoever. It was so spontaneous. So that was very exciting. Now, the one last thing to say about Lambda. I was doing a production of Hedda Gabler with a rather talented group of people, including Cheryl Campbell, who became for a long time a very, very wonderfully successful actress and a very good one. And although I wasn't exactly blocking things, I wasn't changing things very much. And one day, I don't know, it's my instinct, thank God, rose to the surface. And I said, this scene's very boring. I want you to do it again, but I want you to change everything, even the entrances you make. And you must justify why you've come on from a different door. And I don't want you to move to the same places or even do the lines the same way. I want you to, keep it fresh. They were playing objections and so forth. And thank God they were able to do it because it was revelatory for them and for me. They came in and everything was different and it was still wonderful. And that was the moment when I said, this is it. This is how I have to work. This is the truth. And that was a very, great moment in my career. Not planned, but something had been bubbling up in that direction from all those years ago when method actors said, be in the moment, play the moment. And I sort of half understood what it meant, but it meant freeing the actors and saying, I don't have to tell the actors where to go or how to say the lines. If I've fed them and helped them to build the characters with the right objectives and the right intentions, they will make sense of the text and they will relate to each other truthfully. And in fact, they will physically put themselves in many more interesting positions aesthetically than I could.
Yeah.
So there we are. So in many ways, Lamda, well, it was 5 years of my life. And so when I left, I was about 33, something like 32, 33. So I didn't have a career as such, but I left without any work.
Cool. Good. Okay. So,
Sorry, I'm missing things out, but as I'm talking to you, I'm suddenly remembering things. It was a rich period.
it's a lot of stuff.
Mm.
But okay, we'll bring this one to a close. And I think our next episode is going to be Israel. All right. Thanks a lot, Mike. Thank you for watching. And I hope you enjoyed that chat. And if you did, would you press the like button and also the subscribe button? That would be great. And if you wanted to be given alerts to when the next one is happening, just press the bell button. If you want to put any comments or any questions underneath here, underneath the video, please do. And at some point I will re-interview Mike, as it were, and put some of these questions to him. So I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.